And the restaurant?
Restaurant, yeah, the restaurant, yeah. It showed up and everything.
Okay, I have it, we are recording it, and it is being webcast. Those of you that just got here, there's food, please eat.
Hey.
Okay, and Steve is live.
All right, let's call order and start and with Alan on the way, I guess. Hopefully on the way. Farrell, I'm here. And they've got Auburndale and FC Tampa. So, plan as well as we can.
Hey, FYI, there is a ton of traffic on I-75 South, so that might be why Mike and the others are running late.
Oh, well, we'll just start with the things, I guess. Will you just explain all the overview changes? Let's go through the changes real quickly that we made last year to this year, so that came out of this meeting theoretically, and were acted upon in the AGM. Typically, what we're trying to do is to come up with any changes we need among ourselves that we take to the AGM and change the bylaws, because everyone's always saying, and I said for years, this is stupid or that's stupid. If we think something doesn't work or something's not effective, then the meeting or the venue to change it, and then we'll go from there. So, but apparently, I mean, attendance is not high right now. We're assuming that's because all the changes we've made in the last 2 years have been hold. I think the extra clerical, the extra money we budgeted for clerical, intensity has helped tremendously. Soccer's helped. But still have some nagging issues. Most of it's communication, but we'll get into that. What were the travel in C5, one of the changes that were made, just describe them to people.
We pretty much decided that only Division I teams would travel to C5, that Division 2, 3, 4, C5 would have home games. They would have to travel to a neutral site. C5 pretty much decided that D1 teams, we'll back and forth, but they didn't enter any teams into D2 or so forth. So that's how that resolved, in that there's no travel below D1 to 5. So that was.
All right. Any changes?
Other than an employee, that's the main one, and the webinar in all of our meetings. Now, this one's live. Anybody that wanted to log in can log in and hear it and see it. So we're trying to do as much as we can electronically, and we're going to even do more electronic stuff as time goes on. We're working some changes on the website, not Got Soccer, but the website, which will be more interactive, and we should be able to get more accurate information from the club about it. And then,
Judd, I mean, I'll tackle that one. Joan Judd, nothing changed with Joan Judd except the budget. In other words, because we wanted to shift and to shift resources over to put more muscle into the clerical end. We host 3,500 games, and an impossible task for the people we had. I mean, just to keep up with it. I think with Lynn and Sherry now both, we've told everybody they can call them with any questions, any problems, and I think a lot of the stuff is not straightened out, but at least we've got it to a point where we're managing it well enough. Specific problems, and then I do too. But it was just a shift in the budget from the scholarships, and we felt also that we have given, I think, over $300,000 in scholarships since USA has been. It was $360,000, I believe. USA's been instituted the scholarship, so it's not like we're people. We're just cutting it back to 10,000, which we feel is it's 10,000 more than anybody else in this entire state devotes to scholarships for anybody. So it's a good program. We may look into some enhancements in it, but all we did is change the budget somewhat and shift it out of that into the clerical end, which we think we needed. So and I mean, that's really basically, like I said, the Joan Judd, the format for it hasn't changed. I think there'll be more people, I think while you have this on here, Linda, more people will now apply to Joan Judd than will be accepted. Now, I'm back to when we started it, and not everybody then got scholarships either. We had $500, and that was it. So we went for years, maybe 15 or 20 years, where not everybody that just filled out an application got $500. That's something that there's a precedent, but this year we'll have more kids, I assume now, and we're not sure of that either. But the assumption is that we'll have more kids apply for this scholarship than will get the $500 for 1 year. And I think all we need to do is get the committee, and we've asked them to do this, and we'll have it done before the next year. Is we're going to ask the committee to, what the different things that they're looking for out of it. We all felt that the written part is kind of it's not an English essay contest. It was something that we were talking about putting a lot of emphasis on. But I mean, not every kid can write. The kids that play, and not every kid is an eloquent writer, and that may be more difficult for some people than others, and hence somewhat unfair. I know Mike and I talked about the length of time that a child plays may be consideration. I don't know that.
It's now a question in there.
Yeah. So to set up, and I think everybody would be comfortable if we had 4 or 5 sets, and what the value of each was, if it was 10% or 15% or whatever, so that everyone could see exactly where they stand as far as the grades, extracurricular activities, reffing, volunteering, etc., amount of years you've played, and obviously we'd to be accepted at a university and going to go to get the money. So, but that Joan Judd hasn't changed any. It's still a scholarship. It's still a grant, not a scholarship actually. So, all right. This year, just the little things we've talked about, and I know Linda, myself, Mike, we were talking before the program started. It seems like lately, this time of year, we've had a problem. An issue, not a problem, with forts. Who them, he handle them, find them, responsible, and this coordination, and it's we've really had a lot of discussion. The rules are very clear, but thinking we probably need to juke a little bit for this AGM to really clarify the where stability in these forfeits is, so that nobody's nose is a joint. Because we've had people, for instance, that was rescheduled. Am I correct in that terminology? That was scheduled. It was off, or they scheduled it for after the first of the year, and when it gets to be the spring, people find it gets to be there's a problem fitting those games in. And the two teams with that, in fact, the board took this up at the last meeting. Could agree on a date. Neither team could agree on a date. However, there is the home team definitely scheduled a game. There was a scheduled game there. Since nobody changed it, whoever didn't show up for it was a forfeit. One team said we are not coming, so we assumed it's a forfeit. But we get that more clear. For instance, if a team states, and I think that was the one that brought this up, it states, I'm not going to show up in God Soccer email, in whatever you call that, the chat. And because the email, obviously we would look askance at that, but the thing, the email is not a that you're locked into that. Some may have put that in the chat and said, we don't think we're going to come. So let's say Kai's got a group, he tells his kids, don't bother showing up, because I got a chat room email that said they're not coming. And one team shows up because they could grow enough players together, they got it, and they come down, and now Kai's group is not there, and they would have showed up, but they've taken the word of they've taken the email as sort of, argument, and not up. And we're gonna have to clarify that. I think today or at some point we're gonna get that clarified, that no email communication, no matter what it says, will stand at all. There is no change in the scheduling part. If the home team does not request a change and the other team doesn't agree, then we will at some point, and I think instead of the vice president, we're leaning now towards the administrators, make the judgment when the game's going to be. And the game will then be scheduled, whoever show up for it.
If the game is scheduled, I just want to clarify, if the game is scheduled, we're in to move a game because somebody wants to go to a tournament. I just want, that's the schedule and the rescheduled are two different things. But if the two teams,
if both teams agree on it,
have agreed on a date and the game's scheduled, because that happens way back in the fall. We lock the schedule. There's this big thing about locking the schedule. The teams can get together, move games around, we don't care. Then we lock the schedule. But years that's done around the 7th. For the juniors, it's like around October 4th, 5th. That's the schedule is locked. And so at point, the games are scheduled. Rescheduling when a game rained out. Not what we're talking about scheduled games.
Games that were pushed back, though, from what the traditional year is, because we voted as a group to have those senior games or games. As long as they were done by the 31st of March. Yeah. Then we're fine.
Right.
Both we're fine.
Are we talking games that were, we knew that we were going to, a Regency or whatever, and we were going to reschedule prior to even after the game being locked.
You didn't reschedule it. You just scheduled it. Schedule out to February 18th or whatever.
Yeah, a Sunday scheduled game. Yeah, I see it in the fall. I say, I can't play this game. I'm going to a tournament. We're talking still every week period, obviously. We don't accept it, but prior to a 3-week period.
No, first thing is, Steve, this is before the schedules are even locked. See that, and you say, as a visiting team, you have to ask the home team if they'll move it. They said, sure.
Correct.
With the February. But the home team said, we're going to move the game because it doesn't look like it fits for us.
Right. Then
February 18th comes, or 2 weeks before that, and I'm not saying you, but I'll use you as an example.
No, that's
all
fine.
Of a sudden you find, man, this is a terrible date for us.
Right. All of a sudden something came up. Yes.
Prom,
whatever. Yeah. Right.
And you now don't want to play, can't play. The other team, you've gotten in touch with them.
Right.
Depends on the home team or not, but still, you've got to get permission either way. You get in touch with them and you say, look, we'd love to move this. Right. They say, yeah, depending on a day, we're agreeable. What day? And
is this still 3 weeks prior to whatever the rescheduled date was? Okay.
They're rescheduled.
Right,
Please don't use that term.
The normally pushed off scheduled game. But what happens is, so now you're trying with the other team to set a date, and you can't agree on anything.
Right. We've had problems with,
Yeah, but this is really where this came up, and we have a now you're saying, well, the other team won't agree to play.
Right, I got you now. Okay. Or you can't come up with a date. Scheduled of the reschedule. Right.
That's correct. So now we're at the point where we've got to somebody is going to get a forfeit, or both teams are going to agree that there's going to be no game and nobody gets anything. But we've had issues right now, this time of year, with this scenario, the one I'm talking about right now. We've not an abundance of them, but this is a main thing probably from mid-January till now, till, from the high school season till now, we've had a lot of this particular problem. Now, this has to do with us allowing everybody to schedule any time before the 31st of March, which nobody, we talked to Kai and the guys from Auburndale, and I don't know about Gerald, and then we'll this is time to talk about it. Should we make it much more restrictive and therefore not have these issues? Nobody thinks that's a good solution.
I don't think so. I think we do need to leave a little leeway.
Yes, but what we think we need to do, Steve, and think this through, is to first of all, it was the vice president that was going to reset, who's ever running that particular league, the junior boys or the girls, is responsible for setting a date for them. Well, you guys are not always available to do that, and that needs to be done in a cohesive, fast fashion. So
why don't we? I mean, just as a suggestion, why don't we? And I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Why don't we put a timeline in? You're going to reschedule a game as long as it's 3 weeks ahead. It's like a 2-week period, and you got to come to some agreement. If after the 2-week period, then you set it and live with it, or
that's what we're probably going to do. We will set it, but our administrator now will push it in our bylaws that the administrator will reset the match.
No.
Right.
Well, wait. I
can't agree.
Wait a minute. If this is where I'm having a problem with. If the team wants to go to a tournament and the other team doesn't want to reschedule, are you saying we're going to make the team that had the original game date that USA is going to stand in there and say, you've got to move this game because the other? Well, that's what you just said.
No. Because teams, we're saying both teams agreed, but yes, we'll change. When? Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks to come up with a date on their own. Then after that,
the original date has to.
But for certain, both teams have to agree to.
Once they agree.
The start process, because if one team does not agree, the game goes off as scheduled.
Yes.
Right.
Or forfeit it.
But if they both agree, then maybe give them 2 weeks to say okay.
That's where we've had that's where we've had some of the issues. Is both teams have agreed, except they didn't agree on a date, and it just kept moving ahead.
And then it keeps getting pushed off, and then it gets too late. Yeah.
And
so
the games have to be moved prior to 3 weeks before. They can't start the conversation at 21 days before, because that's what's happening. I mean, referees are set, and then the teams are talking, and then all of a sudden game days here.
That's what I don't think is clear, because I think what is clear, and maybe even my understanding was, is that as long as it's agreed upon and approved 3 weeks prior, you don't have to have the game reset prior to 3 weeks.
Wait a minute, you're talking about something different now.
Let's say we both agree. To reschedule the game, in the fall. But
No. Are you talking about the fall, or are you talking once the season's
I'm sorry, the spring. My bad, the spring. Yeah. We rescheduled from the fall into the spring. Now we didn't
reschedule.
Technically, it's not a reschedule.
It's just a scheduled game.
It's a scheduled game that you put on.
What kind of new semantics?
Okay, whatever you want to say. It was a scheduled game in the fall that I should have spring.
Listed for the fall.
It doesn't
and now
matter.
it's pushed into the spring.
It doesn't matter if it's a game that was moved or not. This happens on the original schedule. This scenario that we are talking about right now happens. The game has been moved. You're talking about a moved game. I'm talking about
game might even not have
scheduled game.
It could be in the fall.
That's right. This happens
on the
fall.
What I'm saying is any game that's scheduled.
Exactly.
I think it's the impression that we have 3 weeks. It has to be it has to be at 21 days ahead.
It has to be moved, not approved, but moved.
This is where I think the terminology may be a little misinterpreted. Approved or moved. Now, if you say moved, then really the process has to start 3 weeks. So people say, wait a minute, tomorrow's 21-day deadline on Monday, so as long as we agree to it and it goes in and everybody's okay with it, 21 days. So in theory, it has to be approved and a date has to be approved. not approved to move it, or can't.
Exactly. It has to be
Well,
moved.
we gotta be clear about that because.
Yeah, I think we need to be a
First of
little
all,
bit clear about that.
We need 3 weeks. We set 3 weeks. Is that unduly long period of time?
We
It has to be, you have to say, we're gonna play this game February 1st. Game that was scheduled in the fall, we're gonna play it, it has to be 3 weeks prior to the fall schedule with the February.
Yeah, everyone schedules their matches, and they're pushing them off.
Not just, we're gonna reschedule the scheduled date with a time to be announced. We can't,
No, we're not able to do that.
I think that's where it's a little
juggle
unclear.
that, right?
The only exception there is rainouts, because obviously we don't predict those, but,
And those become rescheduled.
right,
Mhm.
right. I need to be a little bit clear on that terminology too, that maybe you have to have 3 weeks out, but you have to have a date agreed upon 3 weeks out.
Okay, that's what we've been doing. It says, our rules say game change requests where both coaches agree made more than 3 weeks in advance of the game date and entered in GOT Soccer will be approved. That's what we'll do. What you just said is what we do now. It's more than 3 weeks out, home team put it in, away team said yes, the game moved. It happens that fast.
Right, that's not the issue.
That's not
The issue is,
Got
two
it.
teams that agree, game won't be played. But to a date.
Well, then it hasn't been,
That has been approved.
It hasn't been rescheduled.
It hasn't been.
The schedule hasn't been
just
changed.
because they say they want to do it.
That's correct.
If they don't get it done,
This goes back to the chats. No
then the
matter who-
original scheduled game, whatever team shows up with 7 players
Exactly.
Right.
is going to get the win.
And it
Yeah,
has to be
simple
that
as
way.
that.
And that was confused. I think some people became confused this year. Not many. Look, we have, we're saying this, we host 3,500 games.
This is,
We had 1% at this point. It's
Oh, well, then it's
1% of the total matches get forfeited. So we're really talking about a minor thing. However, lately, because we're running out of time, we've had some pretty irate people because they couldn't get these matches in, and it was our fault. Of course, it's not our fault. It's the bylaws. It's not us. We wanted to go through it here again very carefully, and I think we should be very clear as to what happened. It is in the bylaws, but I think we'll go through it again this year and say, here's what happens to you guys. So
I have something written up that if the game is not changed, it is played as originally.
As is.
It has to. And if a team is going to a tournament, the other team is able to agree on a date. It's the original scheduled date. It has to be that. Because otherwise, every one of us are going to be involved in hundreds.
now here's, but here's another point, Mike, and Kai, you got into this at one point, is that now now you're locked into that you know it's too late. But you know 3 days ahead, you are certain. You got 7 kids, and you're not going to have any more than that. Room the other coach and tell him, I'm not coming. Don't waste, in other words, and Merritt and I agree on this. Do we take all of these kids and parents and everybody else and gather them up and get them to the field, right, knowing that the team is not going to show up?
Well, that's where I agree with you, Paul. I think especially when the teams are traveling far, still have to pay the fine. They forfeit it. But I make everybody show up to the field if they just darn know they're not gonna.
We don't make them show up at the field. Our problem is we've coached emailing coach.
Field.
We have coach emailing coach.
No, it has to be through the chat.
Involved in it, or we're copied on it, and we're saying that's not the way to forfeit. We have a rule, and we've got a procedure for forfeit. And we had a problem with teams saying they're not coming and then show up. That's never been.
No, but I think Merritt came up with that.
I'm an unscrupulous coach.
But there'd be a paper trail that can go back and say, you said you weren't.
Certainly wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
We're not going to worry about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that one.
Okay.
Yeah, well, no, you got a paper trail.
But we want to be clear, and I think the thing for us, we the is we'll get together and jeer it a little bit, because the team that does that, I don't think, Mike, personally, but I mean, and I know, well, I know Mike feels, I'm not sure, but I know Merritt and I talked about it. They shouldn't bear the same brunt as a team that just doesn't show up. The other team's there,
Okay.
they're ready to play. Team doesn't show up. They don't call. They don't do anything else. So they call last minute.
Right.
That's
Is that
$250 or whatever.
right? Is $250 for the forfeit, or is that for the inconvenience of like what you just said, Paul?
Yes, it's punishment. It's a
If I'm clear, my
The other
team's
way-
coming
the other
down
way
with
maybe we
cholera.
should-
Right. No Saturday. I'm not going to have enough players.
Maybe it's 100.
Okay, maybe a little bit less.
Oh, to cover reps.
Pre-notification
Yeah.
fine fee instead of.
Pre-notification fine, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say
we can
rest
Go through
plus
one-
$100,
Mhm.
something like that.
All right, what do you think?
Steve, I like that.
Well, 24-hour notice, not a 2-hour notice.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well, right, we'll have to set it, yeah, that's a good point.
It has to be 40.
Some
It has to
time
have-
on it, right?
You have to have some time frame for you to
24 hours, I think, is enough.
properly. Well,
You have to define
yeah, it's 48 hours.
And it's got to be in the chat logs, yes?
No,
And it has to be in the
they'll
chat
have
logs. Yeah.
No, we're not going to put in chat logs. Please, it's going to
The
be.
league's notified.
It's going to be whatever procedure Linda and Sherry come up and put on the website.
Well, don't you have a form now for forfeits?
And that's what it's going to
Yeah.
be.
Well,
Right.
It's not
Right.
that.
we want somebody that says, we want a very clear idea of,
Mhm.
goes, look, well, my team's not going to make it. I'm going to tell these guys, I'm going to let them know now because I don't want
No.
them coming all the way up.
Absolutely not. It cannot be coach to coach. That's where the problem is. When we start saying coach can cancel with coach, we have a
Okay,
problem.
so then we'll
It
have to
has
be
to be
notified. Okay.
coach to
So they
USA.
notify USA through
And
this
then
form,
USA.
just like we do.
Okay, I'm okay with
Yes,
that.
that's what
Yeah,
it
okay.
has to be.
Yeah, you're right. It's got to be to us, not to
Well, if they want the reduced fine,
Exactly.
the reduced rate for
Mhm.
forfeit.
so,
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, that just lately, Steve, we've run into this a lot. Now, again, it's not an overall.
Notify USA. USA will notify the other team.
Correct. Just like a rain out.
Linda, let's clarify it,
Mhm.
that the home team that is responsible for the game would be the one to notify USA.
Not the team, whichever team is not
The other
showing
team's
up.
not going to show up.
It has to be the forfeiting.
Okay with that.
It has to be.
Definition to it.
It has to be the team that's forfeiting.
No, how about the team that's controlling the field? And
They may have to go and pay the referees.
And someone may not even know. I mean, that's the same
Mhm.
problem that we have with these rainouts and
I'm
stuff.
just talking pre-notification.
Yeah.
If it's 48 hours in advance,
We need to hear from the team that's forfeiting,
As long
whoever
as
it is
they do
that's showing.
We'll get to the other team.
Because if a coach says to another coach in
Yeah.
the chat room that, I don't know if I'm going to be
We-
able to make it, the other coach may take that as, oh, they're forfeiting.
Well, that's the point of
Notify
yeah.
them.
No.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's true. Or the other team just conveniently forgets to.
So when one of the teams notifies us
Yeah.
officially that they will not show up, they're going to get a reduced rate, and we will notify, the whole teams. We'll-
Yeah, because we never take a coach's word of what the other coach said.
Correct. They may.
You will
Right.
not do that. You can take that to the bank. When a coach tells me that the other coaches agreed, I'll go to that. I'm going to hear from the other coach. They're not taking it. So we have to hear from the team that's forfeiting.
okay.
Mhm. Exactly.
Well, I agree. But I think part of But part of that, Mike, is also, don't you think, that if we see a club consistently doing that, now soccer, we really can look back. We
Mhm.
really can. If the club consistently doing that, then you wonder why you want them in your league. If they're not gonna respect the other teams in the league, why you want them in there? So we can probably handle it also to say, look, this is the 10th one they've done like this. Come on.
Well, Mike, before you got here, we were talking here earlier how at the beginning of the season, the coaches and the DOC say they want to be in a 6-team league. They want to be in a 7-team league so they can get the games in.
Mhm.
They want the games. Well, now going around to the end of the season, and now these
They're
games
bailing.
don't quite mean as much. So they bust us at the beginning, and they fall off at the end.
And that's why I think that the league has to have more power over that situation, you know, so that we as a league and dictate out those top in the league and what penalties they pay.
If they, we say it's a reduced fee, it shouldn't be such a.
Always a club, it might just be certain.
Well, and that's, you're right, it is, and I say a club, I'm saying the team.
Because
You're
the
right.
club, if Coco's got three guys that continually do that,
Yeah.
he goes to them and says, look, you got a choice here. Even though I'm going to replace you as a coach, you play the games, your kids came to play because you can't make it or whatever it is.
Or you can't
Club,
plan
ultimately, you got to make the club responsible to communicate with the coaches and get the coaches to do what you're necessary. It's like the problems we have, and all of us have had them, with guys just going easy on the fields. I mean, you know, we got guys just
Coaches,
blowing
you're
up.
right, it's the teams.
You're asking the club
It is not the
eventually
club,
to look, man, can you look into this for us and explain what this guy, that's 3 weeks later and the same thing's happening again. You're asking the club to, you guys gotta do something, man, because this guy, you know, and it's, the club's the one that has the, yes, that's right. The club's the one with the franchise. You know.
So, and I say club, but you're right, it's a team.
Our coaches.
Yes, yeah, and so, what's the word, manage them. You know, you get all kinds of things happening, and if there is someone responsible at the club, the well-run clubs, and there are quite a few of them, and no, I mean, the problem, if they've got a problem, which everyone's going to have them, it's how they deal with them right away. They say, hey, we got it, we don't like this, here's what we've done. No, the rest of the league just as well, right? You know, hey, fellas, thanks. But if no one's willing to do anything, week after week, we go in there and there's brawls and people threatening people and cops having to come to the field. You wonder as a league whether we that club. And they'll say, well, it's the coaches. But after a while, it's not. The coaches are just, it's like the parents and the kids. You know, your kids are in my, you know. Say, I don't see kids, they're not my, you know. Say, well, they're kids. And basically, those coaches, in the sense, not in the real sense, are your responsible for how you, the club is responsible for it.
So that's old. I think he's got a hold.
There's a 14-day reschedule.
Well, this is the current rules, and I've got some red line here, because I'm trying to figure out what we all want to do here. Okay, so this is what I've put up. We've got we've got the 3 weeks, and between 7 and actually 20 days away, an option will contact the ref assigner, and this has become very tedious, this whole process, because teams think it's 7 days. They're not even thinking of scheduling at 21 days. They're just thinking it's 7. So I move it to the 21, because if you're moving for a tournament, or because you have another league, 21 days is sufficient. And the people that get down into 7 days,
7 days becomes a forfeit regardless.
Yeah,
for the
it's got to be
situation.
21 days.
Nobody schedules a tournament or something like that 7 days ahead.
No.
The only thing that should happen within 7 days is someone gets sick or the team gets cholera and they can't show up. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean,
You know,
yeah. I mean, understand those.
That because somebody will come up with that.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Next week, we're going to see someone with cholera, I'm sure.
Well, fine.
Yeah,
They pay the fine.
Yeah, that's why I'm putting this out there, because, I mean, we discussed it, I think, kind of at the last board meeting.
That 21 to 7 days is kind of an amorphous thing that's probably not healthy.
Right, and there's a few
No.
teams that won't do anything within the 21 days, but then most everybody's thinking it's 7 days. And she and I are going crazy 8 and 9 days before a game, contacting assigners because the referees have been assigned and trying to move things, and we're taking advantage of it.
You're saying that the 21 days
Is it?
is set.
The
I think
21 days.
I think over the last couple of years, we've established that well, 21 days. I think everybody's good with that.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing we
Yeah, we want to, that's what I'm
Steve,
presenting.
we used to say at 21 days, we check with the signer to see if
Right.
they move the rest.
Mhm.
And then everybody was just waiting. And it's 8 days. I still have a couple of days left before
Yeah.
the 7-day death sentence. You know?
Mhm.
Yeah. No, at 21, I take out the 7 day.
Yeah, we're doing, that's
Yeah.
what I've got here. Them and
I can see it on the screen.
Linda.
you can see it?
Yeah, I can see it on the screen. I guess you're
The
doing.
key here, people, is there's a tremendous amount of soccer, level soccer, that's coming to Florida. We got an NASL team in Jacksonville. We got the
Yep.
new MLS team in Orlando. We got PL teams. We got major national tournaments coming down to IMG. We got international games going on right now down at IMG, and they're sucking up the ref in the area. Big. And the 20 days, if we don't give our signers and people time to assign these referees long out front, and then we can't get them. Because
Right.
not referees that are doing these international matches, these people, the international matches, we're actually bringing people down to get them covered with national type things. And we're just running, try to schedule these referees a month and a half to 2 months ahead of schedule to lock them in. When they schedule 6 months in advance of a college schedule to lock these referees in, so they got them.
Right.
Why don't we do something as a league then? Consideration goes.
Right, exactly. That's the.
Because we're looking at the quality of who we are,
Mhm.
right? Sure, and then we need 31 days in order to get the quality referees.
Or get them booked.
Then we have 21 days.
Right, exactly. That's why I'm supporting the 20. That's kind of.
So we'll put that up at the AGM as a change.
Yeah, and that's another reason to tell them, why is it so long? Because of this, what Merritt just said, I mean, there's,
Now we're
besides
having an issue. We're having an issue. A club to reschedule a game, and even it's 21 days. Guess what?
and
We got nobody in that area.
this might be a problem, yeah.
That club wants to schedule. We got no referees up there. They're all booked. We got Region C. We got games going on. Everybody's sucking up. They got no referees in that area to cover that game.
Yeah.
Because they want to change it. So anyway, that's just a support, at least the minimum of the 21 days.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're on the nail with
It's a
that.
planning issue is what the problem is.
Most leagues around the world will have the league scheduled at the start of the season, set
Yeah.
for the season,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
One of the teams, you're gonna go through it.
Mhm.
And we-
All from things and all that.
I mean, back to the point, Mike, we have 1% right now of forfeit. So it's not a huge problem, but I think that it creates a lot of tension.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I agree. So we're the more clear tension, we'll still probably have the same amount of forfeits.
And the other reason why we have less fits is because we have held to that 1-day thing, and people have unfortunately shown up with 7 players, and they've just come to the field. I mean, that's part of the reason, too, why we have less forfeits, and that's a good thing. And that's a good thing.
But do we all agree that we'll take a look at the fining
Mhm, that's next.
level, see what we think is rational for,
Well, I agree with Mr.
We just,
there that we don't be, it might be bucks off, but not a ton
no,
of
but I don't
bucks
think the
off.
difference between, $350 for a team that really is attempted, has said, hey, I can't make it, is really in good faith, can't do something. $350 is pretty stiff. That's
Like you said, what about 200? $100 for the refs.
We're gonna come up
we
with
gotta, we gotta work in order. That's,
Well, Mike's point out is if you make it, $50, everyone says, that's only $50.
Not $50. No.
Well, yeah, and I think
Maybe
the other
that's
thing about that is if if we get a club to
That's a good-
do that, put team per
No,
team.
you only get one of these. You get the other one. You only get one. Yeah, and then the rest of them go right back to full price.
Well, how about the team that drops out? We've had that happen, or Break River, or we did years ago, have a team drop and just completely fall apart. Didn't we have another one this year?
3 this year.
Okay. What do we?
Dynamo, U10.
$350 per?
We didn't charge them any, we just changed the schedule.
Right.
Yeah, but there's gotta be a club penalty for that.
Okay, when there's,
We're trying to put in a team and they couldn't get the players, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they put a team in and then,
Yeah, what happens?
do a lot of work and then.
Or-
Oh, yeah.
Or the next year they're
The
bonded.
next year, of course.
Well, not a rule that says that any team that does not finish their season is $1,000 fine. So did you want to, I mean, I think that's Florida Spirit and Bartow were the two clubs that,
Well,
that's another issue. I mean, I'm just letting you
Yeah, I
know.
think we need to discuss that at another issue.
Yeah, not here, but the fact is, do we want to leave that in place? I guess we do then, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and
We'll
then,
leave it in place for now, yeah.
That's, I mean, again, I go back to the fact that it's, we want clubs to look at us as a value, to them, not just a, we
right.
don't want to just chat, we don't want to be the chance situation where people just say, oh, maybe we'll play with you, maybe we
Mhm.
won't. And then say, well, no, screw you, we're not do this.
What's on the screen, and I've got it minimized, but each one of these indicating these number of games that were changed during the year. I don't know how many, but it's a huge amount. Now, some are reschedules because they were rained out. That's the ones that have all these verbiage over here. But getting games scheduled more than 3 weeks in advance is a simple process. As long as the coaches agree, our problem is the communication with the coaches. One coach that wants it to, and the other one, they both agree, no. But if the other one doesn't want to, what they're doing is just not responding. That's our big issue, is getting a response. If they responded, we moved, and it's not an issue. You're not going to hear. There's hundreds of games in here.
But we're assuming now that a non-response is a no.
A non-response is going to have to be a no. Because, and we can't be in the middle.
Joe?
If there is a game change request in there right now, okay, and I haven't heard back from the coach, after first notification, I send it to the club. But this is the problem is, we have 2 clubs out there that refuse to respond to those.
I wouldn't be so.
But
They just
actually,
have-
Gerald just asked, do we have the,
haven't, yes. Well, they told Sherry they wouldn't.
Okay.
They knew about it.
Well, they might not have made their minds up yet. They're slow deciders.
Linda, is there a way to text through system? Is there a
Okay,
number?
the coach gets texted. I can't text Gerald. I can't.
No, not him, but I mean, whoever's our contact can number, or all we have is an email. Is there a technology there?
If they want, if they've got their text number in there, send out the email. It gets texted. But get texted to Gerald, it's going to get texted to his coach.
That's why we're here.
The non-response thing.
You were involved.
At the end of the day, we're here, and in my mind, that somebody cannot respond.
Mm-hmm.
Will not respond.
Will not.
Okay? And
Will not.
somebody should be held accountable. We shouldn't just be taking that every step. You know, just, we're having forced support that. I can't say that. You just respond with a no, or just try to work it out. At the end of the day, I'll play the team soccer. And this, it just, first, you know, we should just accept it for just not responding.
Yeah, but we're making assumptions, and we know ourselves. We've gotten 1,000% better since we started doing this, because I always felt the information we had was not good. It's now pretty tight. We're checking, rechecking. But what happens is the assumption you're making in that is that it got to that person. They were in town reading their emails at that point, that their wife wasn't pregnant, they weren't involved in a car accident, we had the proper email, and they decided, I'm just not going to answer this email. And that isn't the case in some of these. If you run every one of them down, there's a different reason. I agree with you. It shows a lack of respect, but also shows a lack of clerical ability also. And we still, with the team, with the clubs that are more than professional management, it's, you know, that's more scattered. Sometimes we're lucky we get people to even respond from those clubs, and they got 20 teams in it.
I think Carol's point is valid.
With the text.
Any email,
Mm-hmm.
then they will
for that, is it replacing God Soccer to utilize?
If the coach puts his text number, then
Yeah, but we might.
But then we have to make it a habit to, we'll text them also, okay.
I always do. We always do.
Always do, but they have to make sure they put it in there.
Yeah, no, but we can ask for it. In other words, we haven't been able to do this, but I would like to see somebody, maybe next year we can test them. We, in the rec in Tarsa, it was, I mean, you would have been better screaming out at the front of your house that the game changed and really trying to use one of those email addresses.
Yeah, well, we know God Soccer does it, Disney does it.
Yeah.
It's the same system.
We just have to encourage, we just have to kind of almost, we can't mandate it, but we have to tell our coaches and or contact.
Word in that's another point today, in that contact information to USA, saying how vitally important it is to get your contact information.
Email and text.
Yes.
Email and text information, yes.
So but in the cases that I know of, we know the information got through. Okay, every single one of them.
We're talking about getting it to you so you can, yes. Yeah,
Just put your,
right.
in all teams, yeah.
And we'll get, if we get nothing, you'll have something to say, hey, I gotta get going.
So what would you like, or the accountability? I know you had your
maybe that he could be whoever, or the C or something, copy on that, so you could, call your coach and say, hey, where are you responding? And just kind of.
Okay, look at the Celtics this year, right?
Linda sends it out, right?
I ended up,
Yeah,
So Linda follows up as far as the league.
yeah.
right.
So,
It's
after Linda,
involved, we follow up.
Well, between Linda and Sherry, I mean, we have really been all over this. That's why we don't have way more issues, and the system we put in place is working.
But we're down to
But
two
look at
subs.
Jimmy, the guys from Celtics. Jimmy, I mean, he's the only one I even know that's there. He's the face of that club. But that happens. That's a good example this year. I mean, you see him, he was always here. He's always the guy. He leaves, and it's like, who's there?
But they
Do we know?
is that once she contacts the people, once she follows up and nobody responds, then it's up to the league. She'll make the decision, right?
in the case with Kai, it was Braden River, and we contacted them, and they got back with Sherry. They knew. They got my message. They just were not going to respond. I mean, what is that? That's what I'm with.
Oh, we got the 8-inch rulers coming out, and They're going to hit them on the knuckles.
There's no doubt they got the message. They just were not going to respond to me.
Well, or one of the other of the two guys that we always know, the two typical guys there, weren't making a decision independently of one another either.
And
They were going to make the decision for the other one. He was waiting for Dan to do something. Dan's waiting for him to do something. Neither one of them do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And you have the same thing with Citrus. Check email once a week.
But Citrus is a more difficult proposition because we only have a few teams up there, so you can see that gets away. Braden River is teams in the club.
I know.
They're not tuned in.
It's just I didn't get a response, and I was, I was getting frustrated.
But when we don't get a response, again, we got to assume that's a no.
I have to assume it's a no. No response has to be a no because life goes on.
We got to have a rule now that if there's no response by X date, that's a no.
So let's just do that. Let's just say no response is a no.
Mhm.
And then we take up the no response in another venue.
Mhm. And when teams enter tournaments, they need to move these games far enough in advance. I mean, I know in Kai's case, it was high school. And you're going to have to be more aware when they move games to the high school season that it's dangerous.
Yeah, high school knows their district schedule.
That was my point this year to Linda. We had not a, but a number of people saying I won the.
Mhm.
Oh, the
Well, you got to know your team too. I mean,
but those are there.
Yeah.
We should not allow. We haven't done it. We shouldn't even allow people to schedule around those events.
The problem is we have the date set, and we're going to stop 12, 11s, 12s, 13s, and 14s from those days.
Groups, but
You know what, I think it's usually, why don't we say, you know, senior teams can reschedule until like February 1st, because, you know, because that's, and 99% of your teams are out of their high school
We
season.
advised them of that, but they ignored what we said.
Well,
But a lot do, when you look at it, some of these coaches knew that their kids were not on this championship teams, that they really didn't have anyone playing. So they scheduled and figure they're going to play. A couple kids all of a sudden, that was an upset and the team got through.
Right.
I think they got through.
Yeah.
Those games, any of those dates set, we be reminded that, hey, you know that's right around the districts or regionals. You should have those dates, fellas.
Yeah. I would say you give it the district, and 1 week later, and then 99% of your teams are out, because the district and then the regionals follow the following week.
Yep.
So, you know, and like you said, that's something we need to just make sure we doubly and triply tell them at the coaches meeting, is that these are dates to avoid, just like we did for SATs and ACTs last year. You know.
Yeah, we had it on the calendar. It's just people didn't. If we told them, they weren't grasping the importance.
Not an enormous problem, but at the time you're dealing with it in the week before. It's really it's pretty heated.
And we don't schedule the games on that day. I mean, I'll go over it again at the fall, but
it's hard to have any games in January anyway, because you don't get your kids back for seniors, because you don't get your kids back for practices. They're still practicing with their high school teams and stuff. So really, we shouldn't really consider rescheduling senior games until after February 1st. You know, in February and all of March to schedule any more games that they want to do.
I'll make that suggestion. I mean, I can't stop.
Suggestion, yeah. I'm not saying it has to be a bylaw, but it's definitely a good suggestion.
I can't block them and got soccer.
No. But I recommend a suggestion.
The other part of that, Steve, is what we might want to do is review at the end of the season how big a problem this was. I don't think it
was that big a problem. I don't think that big a problem.
I said, how many of these it seemed like we were getting forfeits all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were in point of fact really wasn't. So
it was just during a 2-week
we'll
period.
just take a look and see how many of those.
Well, the other two is, it wasn't that it conflicted. I mean, you don't play regionals on the weekends. You don't play. It was just that they had to play
3 matches in the week.
Right.
Said, well, how can you possibly want my kids to play that? Oh, that's the type of thing.
Well, you know, kids this level are used to that.
Let's do this, you know.
And we didn't schedule the game on that day was my answer.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I mean.
They tournaments. They play 3 or 4 games and 5 games in tournaments. They can do it. At that level.
Okay. The other thing that we've got, which up on the screen if you're reading, is unplayable conditions, which is what happened this week. I mean, some of you had.
Yeah.
We had problems this weekend of we're handling the field closure. You know, the proper procedure is for the court to notify USA using the little button on the website, tell us that a field was closed, and we would notify the teams and the ref assigner and the referee. I would say about half of the games that worked. The other half we had teams notifying other teams, and then they're contacting Sherry and I because they know they shouldn't be receiving an email from a coach. And we don't have a clue what they're talking about because the club didn't notify us. We had, at least that I have been able to find on game reports, 3 clubs that never notified us, that notified the teams, and the referees went there and there were no teams. So we're going to have to really come down on the clubs notify USA, hear the dead silence, please. If clubs notify USA, notify coaches.
In my defense on that, I agree with you. You're absolutely right, so I'm not arguing that. Just like, for instance, I wasn't anywhere near anywhere I could notify you, so like today, because we have that issue today. So I told, you know, my coach, just give the other coach a courtesy, just in case, you know, I was going to get to it, which had happened until the morning, just give him a heads up. So that was just kind of like, I probably should have said, forget, don't worry about it, tell them. So he didn't really notify them. It was more of just a courtesy. He said, oh, I gave him a courtesy email. So that's fine. I mean, as long as we know the system works, we just won't do it. You know,
We had too many this weekend, and a lot of them were trying to have the games 9 minutes before game time, when, especially when you had a team traveling 2 and 3 hours.
no, that we can't do. But I mean, just, yeah.
That's right, you don't know. Right.
A lot of times the people don't know about the fields, are still.
Right, till they get, right, exactly. But the
That's part of
rules,
it, Mike, you don't show up at 7, the guy that closes the fields doesn't necessarily show up at 7 a.m., and at 7 a.m.
No.
they may be okay. At 30, you get another cloud buster, and now you realize, I can't have any of these.
well, that's what happened at Azalea yesterday. I know
Well,
that.
that happened to a lot of Geisha games yesterday.
We just have to show, I mean, there's no rules we can get to do that, but we can get better at, there's a person in every club that can call the game, right? For the complex, and say, that we aren't playing anymore. Whoever it is, we've got to implore these clubs to get us that person and make sure that person understands that if they, any information they have to get to us.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, that, the closure link,
That's,
it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be.
yes,
Okay, I can make-
I agree. That is,
Find it, try to get in touch
Yep.
with you.
Okay, well, we can, it's easy to
make
do.
that a hot button.
There you go,
That's easy to do.
sometimes that's usually the easiest thing.
That's easy to do, making it a huge thing. Sherry and I are gonna change it so that it notifies all the rest assigners, because it can do that. We're not gonna notify them. It'll also create an email that now the club can use, to notify the other teams, because that was something that's coming from USA. USA's been notified, now you can notify the other teams if you want to give the teams a courtesy email. The thing is, sending the other teams a courtesy email without notifying us, they're contacting us, and
It was backwards. Now that I look back on it, I should have just done it the other way around. Yeah. No, I agree. I'm not arguing that point. I agree with that.
No, I wasn't guilty because, yeah, we had to, even when I went to
Mhm.
our field because of the work. So I called the coach, emailed Linda, I called the referee and fire.
I had to be notified first, and we didn't have a field closure.
They did.
We haven't gotten anything from them. No, I get an email from you. No, I hadn't. I had my phone with me all morning. I didn't get one. No, I don't have AOL. But I know I didn't get. No, I didn't get anything from Renault. No, I didn't get anything. And the rules say that
Okay,
on the day of the game, it's the referee that calls it.
Yeah, but let's,
No, wait a minute.
they sent you something and you get it. That's good. I mean, I don't know why or how, but was it through the website or was it through?
Well, the other
Well,
thing is,
they said they sent Linda something. Was it that form that they sent them, or was it just an email?
Email. He didn't have my email address right. It's H01. He had my email.
the day of the match, the referee isn't the only one. In other words, the fields, they can close the fields. They don't care what any
Well,
referee says.
we understand that
So
they can
it's-
close it, but it's the notifications
Yeah.
on the day of the game.
The referee come and that close that he's not sure, but sometimes it's not even close.
If that link can be visible.
Yeah, we'll make that's
You're
good.
gonna get it anyway, right? I mean, you're gonna get that.
Yeah, because that comes to me. It's not
And
like,
that would make life easy for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, because we
And that,
get
yeah,
it.
It's speed of
they can Google
communication
and bring
would
up
stop people
USA
from
and
coming, on there.
Yeah.
and fill it out real quick.
Almost everything we've spoken about today, fortunately, has been communications, just really, and we've gotten 8% better in the
Sure.
last 4 years than we've ever been,
As
I think.
I say this from a referee standpoint, get a button for the field thing. I'd like a button for rule and regulation of the league. Because as a referee, I go to look and we, in the league, CDL, USA, I gotta dig down and go way down and figure out what's the substitution rule.
Right.
Some of this, what's the what's the waiting period for teams or stuff like that. It doesn't matter what league it is. Sometimes I got to burrow down deep into their website to find, and then under some innocuous name, under administration. It makes me want to look at administration. But I have the referee button, and it doesn't have rules and regulations there. Game rules and regulations. So that would be.
Well, we can
that's a big
puff
point.
that up on the,
Yeah, that's
you guys can change that.
That sounds good. I mean, that's something y'all could do.
What else you got here? What else you have?
Forfeit.
I have a question for
Yeah.
you, Linda. Is the best way, I mean, do we have like a text number for you? Do you have a phone used for business that we can text? Because sometimes when I send emails from my phone, sometimes it's a 20-minute delay before my email goes.
Right.
I don't always check the
Thinking.
text. I'm on email continually.
Maybe we should make that a point, and maybe we put some money into a budget for Al, you know.
Well, I have text on my phone. It's just, I don't
It's
show
for a
up.
lot of people, I agree with you, that's,
That's a syncing issue.
Yeah.
you're somewhere where you can get that text, they'll grab it and go, and email
I mean,
won't.
I sent a text to my mom one day, she didn't get it till the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the technology side of it.
Yeah. I get text. I have text on my phone.
I have your home number, but I don't have your cell number.
Right.
Do you give out your cell number?
I try not to, because yeah.
But maybe you need a phone, that's my point, is maybe you need
Yeah,
one
just
that's
an
a cell number
innocuous
that's a
sometimes.
USA.
No, I don't want to, I'm going crazy with the one. I'm going crazy with the one.
That's
Unlimited
part of
text.
our- that's
I have
part of
unlimited
our-
text on it.
But that's part of our
Um,
members' ability to communicate. If it's just email, it does limit it.
it's just, I get email on the phone, and I'm usually able to respond much better to email than I am.
But some people can't get an email out where they are.
Correct. I can send an email on my phone, but.
You gotta have, you gotta be somewhere there's a
maybe 2 hours
wireless.
away before it actually, it's stores.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It takes a while to
The cell
get
towers
where I
are
am.
more normal than being,
Yeah.
I can check text more easily.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just
I have your cell number.
making sure at the coaches meeting that everyone has all of the options, right?
yeah.
I mean, I can put it up there, it's just that I don't check. I mean, I really don't check that much
And
for
then
messages. I just,
Yeah, but I mean,
If your phone
that's a problem for Linda, because if you are able between email and text,
Mhm.
she's gonna double
yeah.
information.
Well, that happens sometimes.
Oh, it happens anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
We send out 4 responses.
Yeah.
Right.
But better 4 responses than
Yeah,
none.
that's the way I look at it. I'm like, oh shoot, she already did it, but it's just easier
Yeah.
sometimes to do a quick response.
But I will miss
What was-
that.
No, I might be making it complicated, but you were talking about that Scott Soccer has a functionality when the foreclosure form gets submitted, is notify refs.
Yeah, I'll just show you,
immediately
yeah.
and such. Would that take us out of the needing to answer that, we see that foreclosure form, we have to do something, right? But then there's real life. Yesterday I was in a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
This morning Linda was on her way to church.
Sure, yeah.
And sometimes there might be a delay on our part.
Real time doesn't
Where
work
if
all the time.
someone entered the field closure regulation, it would automatically notify everyone? Does it do-
It only
can't
goes-
do that?
No, it's through the website. It's a form through the website, not Got Soccer. So it can go to the assigners. It can go to the assigners, which I'm gonna add I'm gonna add the 6
Somebody
Well,
would
that's- that's better than nothing.
tell.
Can we link it to it?
No, it won't link
They
through.
they don't know the ARs anyway. I mean, let's face it, all you can do is get to the center. Be the best.
Information, I'm just thinking about it.
And we can send I'm gonna set it up so the club gets a form they can now send out. The clubs know who the ARs are because they assign the ARs. Get the ARs, but
we don't want to lose all control of
No.
who sends what.
No.
Because things are hacked around right now. Somebody just doesn't go on there and sends a field close notice.
Well, exactly, and we had coaches yesterday putting them in, and I was the U10 coach from AU, and then we 4 of them from TBU, not HCU.
Wow, HCU, that's old
Yes,
school.
sorry, TBU.
Who were they?
But anyways, I got 4 of them later on. It's just never got one for the games from yesterday. And of course, Jim was pretty upset that I sent him one for today, and he did one for yesterday where the referee showed up and there was no team.
Well, you bring up a point now, that if there's no way of controlling
we're going,
Or if the close is not even, just be a prank.
where I was going with that though, excuse me, was like on the game change request. It all gets under, we just have to click approve.
That's in Got Soccer.
Right, and got soccer. So I was thinking it's unfortunate there's not something like that. 'Cause to know, like do the field closure notifications, it does take a little bit of time. You know, the time you do this step, there's 6 steps for us. So I thought it was something, even if we're tied up, you could still be like, okay, approve, and at least it gets it out right away.
But we can do it, no, they have a field closure.
They don't have.
No, they don't have a place where a club can log in, close the, and do all that. That's something we do. And the field closure form is on our website, not in Got Soccer.
And our website doesn't have an approve, non-approval button
I
know of.
Well, the form is my creation. So, I mean, I can send the form out so that when you fill in, you get automatic approval, but that's
Yeah, see,
people.
yeah, be good.
No eyes are gonna see.
You know, that's,
Yeah.
we need to see it.
Just it.
Maybe we can make
If that form has been submitted, you don't have, like any kind of approval or information number or anything like that.
The only thing that I can think of right now is if we, and we don't want to do it, is I could say it for it's password protected, but if we have to give all the administrators of all the.
So that might not be good.
But, yeah, because, you know, and that would guarantee coaches wouldn't get to it.
Can it respond back to the administrator of the club?
It wouldn't unless we had it on, now, it only goes back to the person that fills it out. It's just a simple form. You go online, you fill it out, it's okay. It would, sure. Because it's on an open website. It's not in the secure site. It's in a it's a website. It's an open form. It's been an issue so far. It has not been an issue, and I can't foresee it being an issue because when they fill it in, they're going to have to put in information that we recognize. If a kid were to go in and fill it out, they're not going to know some of those things we look for when we look at it.
Found that out. That's assuming it's a kid.
Yeah, I'm just saying, somewhere to fill it out. But right, that's not been a problem. Our problem is people not filling it out and not notifying.
But when saying that,
Back to that, what happens then to that club when a referee or center show up?
We bring it up to you. I mean, it's like we've got two of
Here we are, let's.
no matter if you just brought up something.
We've got.
What do you?
Put your mouth and now we make a complication. I was gonna say, in case of a.
Well, so don't get out.
No.
I showed up yesterday for a game and I didn't.
No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I was really in the field. Anyone can do it.
Right, yeah. Who it's coming from, whoever fills that log out's gotta have authority.
Yeah, we want it to be somebody with authority, yes.
Yeah, and they don't, and say going on, they wouldn't know who was the authority.
I'm looking for information that they type in. If it doesn't look right, I mean, it's like the one that we got from.
Yeah, but listen, anybody can use my email address.
Now, when I closed, one time, Sharon called me, like, within an hour, I'm verified the information, would you call me?
There you go. They're checking back.
That's what you guys do for that particular Sharon call.
That doesn't hurt.
Did you cancel this?
That bigger problem is not finding out at all and having our there. Now, that's the point. Now what do we do that no one from the club is bothered to tell us our refs have gone there? And for any matches, I mean, because they closed the fields.
Well, a spot where,
Well, we charge.
Anyway, good.
is there a spot where if the referees can see it's in the weather, go on USA's website to like a referee bulletin board. And
Check with their assigner.
Yes,
Center's the only one that
the
can sign.
assigner. Even the assigner doesn't get the word. Yeah.
And plus you've got, like yesterday, it was raining like mad in Pinellas. It wasn't raining south of the bridge. I mean, man, they're fine.
Can you give the administrators a code for that law?
Yeah,
You can double check when it comes in.
sure. That I can do.
I think we're talking a lot about this, but a lot of it is we didn't get a lot of the notice notices, because it wasn't as prominent as it really needs to be.
Right.
I think we'll get more notices.
All right, well,
If
let's
just that one little change.
Start there.
And when we start getting bogus notices, then we can worry about tightening it down. I mean,
Right.
right now, that's not been the issue. The issue is USA not knowing. The issue.
Well, what's wrong with that? Only that the referees are going because our referee assigners don't know to stop them. And one year, we always paid them. I don't know if that's the norm, right?
I don't
Well,
think it'd be a full fee, but I think there ought to be
Well,
a
we've
travel
taken
fee.
that, we've given them the full fee if they're
We need
there.
to have a
And
policy.
we just put it on our cuff. It
I know.
goes against the
The
club.
club, I mean, who cares, the league?
Well, because the other team doesn't show, we're gonna take it on as a club. Our club's gonna pay for it. What about the other guys? I mean, because it happens.
So that I had phone calls yesterday from clubs, and they wanted to make sure the referee was canceled, so they'd have to pay for him.
Right.
And it's 90 minutes before the game, and the ref's on the way. Well, I can't guarantee, because
If he's a club, you have to pay.
that's what I want to know.
I felt it was out of courtesy.
What do you think of God?
Ray,
Kai's showing me a picture back here where the goal area was in a foot and a half of water. Well, the referee showed up. If there's no lightning, game can play. Okay, if there's no lightning, and there wasn't any lightning hardly yesterday. There was a couple here, but for the most part, they were in field wet. If it just says in the laws of the game, if the spot is underwater, you still got to float the ball and kick from that spot. If the corner area is underwater, you still got to put it in that area and kick the ball. Okay?
And I agree with that. When you, the previous club I was in, however, like, we get from the injury. Right now, we're going to luxury of able to use some.
Well, and it closes the fields, Gerald. That's what happened. I mean, that's the point. Is in a county, the county finds you playing on fields, you're going to ruin them to you. So.
Well, I don't know. I did a tournament down there, and that one field, the playground or whatever.
On the,
The refs should know that it would hurt the kids.
Well, you got to. So if they show up to do the game and everybody's there, and y'all show such a field, Klein, there should be a travel fee, maybe not the full game fee. If you're enough club that does that, I guarantee those guys won't mind coming back to your club. You know, especially for our league.
But you get out and Winter Haven, a place like where a guy's got to go out to some places far east now.
Out there, they got a hump for a long time.
And they don't know what the weather is. They're stuck if they don't get their money. And we've all.
field closure form, is there a spot for who is your referee assigner? So that when you get that field closure, you size the person that sent you, but they can automatically go to the.
Talking about the
it's,
signer.
you're talking, no, we don't have, it's not connected to a database. So we can't pull
Have to
something.
manually do it.
We have to manually do it. It's on a web, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
We haven't got our IT department's not up to.
we're working on it. I got a web person working on it, but that is down the road. That's where you would have to log into a secure site.
Or on that form, I can maybe in bold letters, just to remind the coach or whoever fills it out, please contact your.
Number one, it shouldn't be a coach.
Well, whoever it is.
I'm gonna change it, but yeah.
If you, which I send that to guy, and I quickly, and we have to know who our residents are. And I emailed the residents, and I can text them.
Rule, if the ref hasn't gotten there and you can get to them, they don't pay. You don't need to pay them because obviously they haven't shown up.
Right.
Yeah, you've notified them. Yeah.
Is there a time frame for that?
No, I'm gonna have an issue with the league yesterday because they sent it out just over an hour before kickoff. But I'm supposed to be, if a referee is supposed to be a half hour before the game, well, it's a 45-minute from my house, so I gotta leave, half before kickoff, hours.
Well, yeah, I don't think I've come up with anything today, but we need to start thinking about.
We need a policy.
It's a 3-hour notification,
Well-
you still pay your rest.
I'm thinking, it's gotta be 3 hours starting at 8 a.m. Send it at 5 a.m. a.m., just uncut it, because I'm not getting up. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you better get that automatic button. You better get that automatic button, bitch.
But I'm telling you, you know, if you're talking about an 8 o'clock game, it's going to be canceled tonight.
Anybody that's out there doing that at 5, we don't need them in the league.
Well, let me say this, and I'm proud of this league, because what we do, and that's why I'm part of it, is I do know a lot of other leagues, they don't pay squat, even though, you know, referees show up at your game, we don't pay you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't pay nothing. You know, you take it on the chin. So, if, you know, if you guys are paying something, that's good.
So can you, Mike? I mean, think about it. You can't put an hour, you know, how many hours before, because we got all these different situations that are always occurring.
Well, I think a minimum 2 hours before kickoff.
Well, we'll notify you at all, then they owe the refs?
My thing is they owe me. You know, I show up, there's no notification anywhere, you know.
And if you have an 8 o'clock game,
Well,
I mean,
you show up.
You have to. I mean, even if the club goes and fills it out, we're going to see it.
We're not going to. You think I'm going to fill it out at 5 o'clock in the morning? They ain't going to do that.
No.
No, but I think that's right, you know, what it comes down to.
To be there to pay the referees. I mean, unless they've gotten confirmation from Sherry or I, they need to be there to pay the refs. It's pretty responsible. We know when there's bad weather, and then we're hop to it and wheeling with it. You know.
I mean, listen, they have to pay the referees before when you notify the game is, the field is closed. They're gonna get paid with, they pay that.
Right.
Money, or they can get
You just worried about an 8 o'clock game or a 9 o'clock game?
Those are the worst ones. Or
In most cases, clubs will shut down the fields the night before.
right.
That's the thing, yeah.
Yes, the rear.
Yeah.
Well, no, I got a morning game in at 9 o'clock in the morning. The 2 o'clock game was shut down.
Right.
So it didn't rain enough. What time was that game, Kai? That was probably an afternoon game. That picture there.
Yeah, that was like 2, 3.
Yeah, that's after it rained all morning. Any game that's at 8 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, it's raining. You've got to show up at the field if you don't have any notice, because you don't know if it's going to kick off or not.
I mean, I got a shutdown notice for Seminole Shooting Stars, and I'm looking outside and going, it's not raining, and they're not that far from my house. I'm near Azalea, but I'm saying, why are they shutting down? Well, they hit us, you know, and then the lightning hit, and I'm thinking, okay.
Boy, they got a pretty good weatherman down there, don't they?
And I mean, then it came down. I couldn't see across the street. So, and we're close to Azalea.
I think the notice I sent you, I think I sent it to the one we that night. I'm constantly watching. Pressure boost like that, so it's not raining that night, so I went.
But they're the easy ones to take care of, Joe, when you're out of it. Ours are.
Yeah, we don't have that. We're not having a big issue.
we don't be able to control everything, but, so, you know, when they show up, we just have, that's just one.
Really, somebody needs to be there to pay the referees. Unless I've heard from Sherry or I that the ref's been canceled. I mean, it needs.
Yeah, but that's a.
Yeah, but I mean, if I hit a button at 6 o'clock,
You know, yeah.
I hit the button, it's gonna be closed out the whole day. I mean, I'm not gonna hang around the field for 2 hours to pay the referee and go home. I mean, they will pay the referee, but we don't have to wait 2 hours to pay him to say go home.
You can mail it.
Oh, yeah. Of course, now every time we pay a referee, now we got to track them for $10.99 if they hit 600. But if the club pays them, we don't have to.
We're talking so small of mine. Yeah. What else?
Oh, we're aware of it, but I mean, it just happened.
We only pay them when we've gotten a game report where the ref shows up and says there's nobody at the field. If you need him, he's supposed to report that, or no game or whatever. It's when ref says, and there was no one there, and then we track this down.
Yeah, we
You
look
hear from-
into it. We want to know who didn't show up, because somebody's getting a forfeit.
Yeah, you hear from me. If the referees, you hear from me.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll double check all that stuff.
Believe me, you're talking about double and triple checking. Yeah, sure, looking at all kinds of stuff.
Think, we're more money out of you, is that what it is?
We're not here around here talking of it, that's what everyone is.
Looking on this too, man.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. Well, we can outlaw rain, that's one thing.
Your point, is probably, you know, I think it's, we're thinking it can change on the weekend.
Right.
Yeah, the game fee is $50, you know, if they get $25 for gas, you know, that's all I want.
One thing that I would like to bring up is the referees demanding money before the game. I think all this report.
There are bylaws, we're gonna have to change
Whoa,
that.
whoa, Mike, no.
It's gotta be.
Yeah, don't do that, man. Don't ask people on the way.
Well, how do you control of it?
Well, because I think there's the league, the league will be power over everyone. The league is even paid because you don't want to happen in the game. The league's in control. The league is,
No, but,
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just trying to
Well-
understand why.
So the rest needs to get paid beforehand.
soon, again, as the ref does it though, Mike, not only is the ref doing it, cause a lot of times after the game, he gotta go. What happened in this thing with, Fishhawk. They get out of there, and nobody was there with the money after the match.
But that's one time I think that,
No.
I don't think that is, that you, that we went through all the members of the success of that there's people that made.
Gonna have to-
I paid them before, don't come and ask me for the money before the game.
Yeah.
I think that's disrespectful.
It's in our bylaws.
It's in our bylaws.
I understand that, but I think that's disrespectful.
I used to go with the matches on the.
Yeah, if a referee doesn't get paid prior to the game, you're gonna have a lot of coaches who are gonna say, you didn't ref well enough today, I ain't paying you.
But we don't have the right to say you didn't do a good enough job.
No, but you don't, you know, and,
Disney. You did that to me in Disney.
you know, but you know what, you got a lot of coaches that are not, like, you know, up with everything, and maybe they pay.
They're pretty crazy too. I mean, you have all these events happening during a game that just, it's wild and woolly at the end of the game.
Can I, from the referee's part, what we do is, unless it's, like, no USA or USSF pays us online, go pay stuff like that. We have trained people to make sure they get the game fees in advance.
Right.
Only because if you have an abandonment of the game,
Correct.
banned incursion, problem with coaches, problem with fans. So I go out to do a game, and there's nobody there. There's no administration at the field. The only people that are there are the two clubs. Okay? In most cases that I got, let me still tournament the other day, the envelope was stapled behind the game report. They already had the money sorted out and right there with the game report, handed it to the referees, check in and everything else. So, and a big part of what, because we know if there's a lot of cases, you gotta get done and get out of there. You get out of there. Now, right, we have the league, and the league will protect the guys, and we will cover that in our preseason referee meetings. Says, hey, just go with the flow. If you gotta get out of there, let somebody know why you're there. But to have to go do it in Bennett Fields where we had to track somebody down to find out who had the fees. Because the guy in charge of the referee, you know, he's running all around the complex. So it was that's a little bit. I know you feel like that. You got supposed to do the job. Well, number one, I think if they just show up on time and get there early, you know, they've completed half their duty and then get out there and call the game. So that's a little bit the background on it, just for education, because there's a lot of times they're trying to get out of there and get to another game, because they're booked on, I had 3 games scheduled yesterday. Fortunately, they're spaced out, to get between fields and fields.
But that one guy at Fish Hawk, he needed to get to another game, and he couldn't find anybody to pay him, and he had to leave to go to another complex, and he was getting to the other complex.
Yeah, but I mean, and I think that this is just talking business point of view.
Right.
I think that issue doesn't need money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Instead of it becoming a conflict of people are throwing names around and it becomes the USA. He knows that he doesn't get paid. You get noted.
Right.
They pay the money. They get paid. We're not paying them to get paid because the legal obviously thinks.
I'm here to tell you, we've gone in a lot of places, and we've done a lot of games, we ain't got paid.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got
Talking U.S. soccer.
Yeah.
Right.
the league, right?
I'm talking soccer.
Yeah, but they're not doing their job because in the end.
Well, I know, and so we let them know, and they get a lot of, right. So they don't, that's,
I mean, I just,
well,
My feeling is, once the referee gets paid, that's his decision, the referee controls all the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Is that right?
so anyway, and there again, it's not a big issue, that's an,
That is a partnership, that's not you against me and me against you.
right, there you go. So that's kind of where we're at. So you're alone on that feeling, Mike.
Forfeits, we gotta talk about forfeits. I got some stuff here, but I don't know what you want.
All right, let's get in, that's the last topic.
Mm-hmm.
The fines for the forfeits, or what determines a forfeit?
It's gotta be a little bit of everything. We've got teams that say, I'm not showing up, and want to pay the forfeit fine, which is the way it's been. If you're not gonna play, then you pay a forfeit fine. Now, USA is allowed any team more than 3 weeks ahead, no fine. No referee fined and all the rest of that. But if you're up to 3 weeks, they've been insisting on a fine, and we've got a dozen teams now that have been the forfeit fee, $250 for forfeiting in advance, and then we know the team and are paid and blah blah. Now, historically we've considered a team saying I'm forfeiting in advance the same as a no-show. And one thing, do we want to change that?
Yes.
Question.
Yeah.
And we've not done that.
That's early fine, you don't have to fine.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What do we want the early fine to be?
What's the standard?
$350, if you don't show up, it's $350.
It's $350
$250 fine, $100 for the rest.
and $100 for the rest. That's
Why
what
does it be 100 with 100 for the refs? 200. Just make it 200.
I get 100. I think that's,
I think she
You gotta pay the refs.
Okay, the first time you do it, it's $100.
okay, we can put some limit on how many times you can do it then, but
that's going to be an administrative thing, trying to figure out tracking it. Because if you've got,
Well, you've only had 35 forfeits this year.
Well, just put it in the little game report thing, you can put,
it won't track forfeits like that and go.
yeah, it won't do it themselves. You just have to go back and do
How
it.
about different, in every situation, okay, just like red card, 1+2 game, 3 game. For example, like from my point of view, obviously my team, where I find out I'm down to 7 players and the game is 2.5 hours away. We're calling, they're not gonna drive, or parents are not gonna drive, or 7 guys, I mean, we were going out with 10. Friday night, we're down to 7, because from the Sunday game, and review, every player, she's putting you in 9th place, and it's dropping off, somebody wants to do a fire round trip. I mean, so, would that be the same scenario in terms of $350? I don't know if you have that in my player's contract, you feel that's a big deal. And any, wait, I'm just saying, let's get it done. What are you gonna do for them? Okay,
They're 19.
Last of 19.
Last game of the season, what are you gonna do for them? I have no power over them. Hey, you have to travel that.
For me, for me, in a new way of doing it, that'd be $100. It's national, $100, period.
Well, he's
I'm including, all right, is that,
No one's showing up.
48 hours in advance.
Well, even 48, I mean, he's taking care of the refs, those guys aren't gonna show up.
Friday night, to let them know, hey, we're not gonna come down to 7 guys.
I mean, the soccer pit's not, they got 2 days, they know they're not going again.
Because somebody wants to travel to
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Well, that's the assumption he's making, although he doesn't know that's the reason, they just ain't playing.
But $100, if just $100.
Well, yeah, except we're figuring most teams wanna play though, Mike, right? I mean, it's like, you're figuring the kids are there to play.
I still think that you gotta make it so that they don't think of that as a need down.
Well, but we're assuming with that,
You have to
but we're,
the
yeah,
fine,
but,
then go case by case.
Yeah, but the,
$100 plus the referee fees.
but the assumption with that, Mike, is that these guys are not going, in other words, the club has no control over that last thing. We're now gonna say, well, you got no control over your players and they don't wanna drive 5 hours, so we're gonna charge you $350. Versus a team that,
$100.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, that's why I would lower it to something more reasonable. I'd make it 100, I would maybe make it 2, but.
is that $100? I mean, where are the referee
$100,
fees playing into this?
Because that covers the refs.
So there is no fine, it's just really, it's just making sure that
There's no
that team
fine
pays for the
because
refs.
he's got I see what you're saying. You fine them because they still.
So why didn't it be 150? They pay 100 to the ref and 50 to the league for fine, for.
I'm okay with that then.
Something has to go
We gotta come
above
up
the
with
ref.
We gotta come up with a number that's not $350, that's what we're talking about.
Get a hour notice, it's time to.
Yeah, I'm good for 150, there's no sense in any more than, I mean, this already costs people money.
So 150, which pays the ref and a $50 fine to the league.
48-hour or better notice.
48-hour better notice.
On Monday.
And I think if you get, to the point where you say, well, you only had 7 years, so we charge you less, or, I don't think you can do that.
No, we just gotta make a rule, that's the way everything's unfortunate, but that's what happens. One size fits all.
Right.
But the refs to be paid because they accepted that game.
Yeah,
Absolutely, the refs have to get paid.
But they were gonna play that one.
Yeah, but.
It's not rain. Rain.
They got no alternative, because they've already scheduled that
Yeah, but 2
game.
days out, they can,
No, vendors usually can't.
The assumption is that they can't, that they have taken that
they
game,
lose that game.
they turned down other
Other
games.
games.
Not inclement weather where they didn't have a choice.
Right.
I still, mine is, I like the one deal, you wanna go low, will be nice the next time, we gotta monitor that. It's not a lot.
No, it was.
No, but all the older teams
Don't
seem
think
to
about,
more now.
don't think about age group or anything, just think about the rules in our league. How do we want to administer to everybody?
When someone knows ahead of time that they are not gonna make it for one reason or another, and they notify us and, the other team, or they notify us actually, because they've gotta notify us, to make this work, better circumstance than them just not showing up. Not showing up really puts everybody out. One, notify us, the team that was gonna play against them knows now not to get ready to get their gear, change their plans and go to the field on Sunday. They know now Sunday they don't have anything.
Right.
Sort out the money. But the kids didn't get a match in, so there's a fine, there's a penalty to that because we want them to play a match. That's what Mike's saying, make it too cheap. It'll be too easy to do.
So 150 or 200?
Between the team that doesn't show, you come to the fields, you've tied everybody up, and you say, oh yeah, we didn't feel like coming. Now you have the team there, all the effort they've made, plus the disrespect for their opponent. That's fine, that's the $250 fine plus the referees.
Maybe,
If they show up at all, that's $350. The way now.
Let's say that I have a team in day, and I 2 months later, I call you again, I need to forfeit a game. Is there any way for you to track what I have forfeited?
No, when we pull up the schedule, we can see forfeit.
Okay, so, if you see that I have one forfeit,
See that?
if I'm forfeit, that's my $100.
So we say we got one per season?
After that,
Fine.
so any
Good
forfeit
idea.
after that,
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
automatically
yeah.
get the $350.
One per season. One cheapie per season. Yeah.
So,
One for referee fees only,
Yeah.
and then go back to the three.
So no fine on the prior notice, no fine?
On the first one,
The first one's $100.
yeah, we.
You can track it, so we could go $100, first one, no fine, and then someone fine.
regardless, I issue a week
Yeah,
in advance.
all right, are you
Now,
happy with
The
that?
next question is, I'm gonna set it up on the website with either PayPal or, it'll have to be through PayPal. We pay in advance. I wanna get out of using the Got Soccer forfeit thing, because the team can enter into that once. I'm gonna have PayPal up there. It's either through PayPal, so you can just click it and we get the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, with credit card, yeah. So if a team enters the second time, I'm gonna actually have to go back and tell them to pay more before I process the forfeit.
Right.
Because the teams are gonna look for the cheap ones. I mean, that's, you know,
See, I don't, I mean, we got 1% forfeit. Right now, we have 1% of our games forfeited. I don't think most teams, 99%.
But that because it's a $350 fine.
yeah. Now, once you change
We
that,
don't know.
oh, yeah, we do.
We don't know.
Well, what's human nature?
How many of those teams played a match because of the fine? How many do we know? 1%, 2%? We know.
You know, I know when I,
Yeah, but we can,
More than one? Yes.
But can't you on the PayPal though, under the forfeit, when you click that, automatically only have it to accept $350 and then the $100 they just mail to you?
no, I don't wanna do that, because if I don't have that $100, I'm not canceling that game. I'm gonna have the money first. Because
Yeah.
the difficulty in collecting funds is extreme.
Yeah.
Pull up quick right now and show you, you know, but I could,
Yeah.
there's, the point is, if they've got to pay for it in advance, we get it. You say, we'll bill you, and trying to collect from those no-shows, there's,
to quit, they leave the league or whatever.
yeah, I mean, there's some,
Before the game's canceled, they pay the $350,
Mhm.
whatever it is.
exactly. Yeah, you know, the $100 is your first forfeit. If you forfeited, you need to click the $350 and
So let me ask you this, what happens if the club forfeits and they don't pay their fee?
we've got to deal with that. The next
We're gonna
meeting,
do
Next season,
we've
they don't,
got some.
Next season, they aren't in the league.
they don't
Some.
We
until they
won't do
pay
that,
that.
but
But, yeah,
With all the collections.
we'll threaten them.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Guy's got 12 feet, he's gotta he's gotta play somewhere. It's not that
Exactly.
simple to schedule the games.
okay.
You're not well, they're not members in good standing,
Right.
and so that's where they fall in. I think we even have
Yeah, and
technology in there, right?
we've not been
I think
enforcing
may
that,
also-
but
I don't know if
we need to enforce that you can't play until you pay your fine. We've not, because we've not been able to get our hands on the fine.
Sometimes it's, you gotta stay up with that, you know, in other words, people will pay them,
Mhm.
we'll pay them. I bet you we got an outstanding fine, but we'd be right, when we pay, no one's thought about a check-in.
No, you keep if you owe, you've been getting notices from me.
I haven't.
Then,
Oh, okay. But we have done some things we do owe.
listen, you
do
don't,
pay them. Okay.
they're not owed. That's what I'm saying, they're not, if you,
So I haven't.
I pretty much every week send out those, over.
Make it.
Can I ask you a question, talking a little bit the forfeit stuff? Have we had many just blatant no-shows?
Yeah,
Dozen?
mhm.
Out of 3,000
Yeah, I was no,
Well, wait a minute, okay. So,
yeah, we're talking about no, and,
well, we,
one
you know, we
team
got,
shows up, the other team doesn't show up, and the referees are there, like standing around, so what's going on?
If they don't have urgency and respect for their teammates, hit them hard, okay.
Well, that's
the
kind of
free-
what I'm going at,
that's the
Coco. I want to look at total no-show, notification.
nobody in this room
Huh?
Nobody in this room is in that.
No, but
But I'm
I know
saying-
that it does happen to people, and
Because
again,
I'd like the money,
someone
not
thinks,
to go to the league, but to actually go back to a club or a team that showed up and they spent money to drive over there.
let's not do that, because that gets
Yeah.
complicated.
Well, I know it does, but
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time.
y'all are being fair to the referees.
We're gonna pizza.
Yesterday, our 16 went to Wesley Chapel, they showed up, and the whole team didn't show up.
They tried us after the game, that the fields were closed. Wesley Chapel did, right? That's the one where you were in the funeral, right? Yeah. And were there,
The soccer, let's say soccer pit had 2 cars break down. Now,
Well, they call it
They call, soccer pit's very, very good about
I'm just saying,
communication.
but they wanted to reschedule, we were back to the same issue, that there's no time, according to whatever, there's no time to reschedule.
You know, again, it goes back to this, if somebody doesn't respect, just pick up a phone to make the effort, to say we're gonna do that, and then just say we don't care, there's gonna be action.
Well, we're
$500.
but Coco, we're going back to just what we said 20 minutes ago about this rain thing. I go and show up, and who at Wesley Chapel is authorized to close those fields?
Well, at that time, you have to, the direction,
So the field was open until the ref said it was too? Okay.
it was open.
Because they played a game.
Did the ref, and it was there. It was unplayable? Did the ref then say it's unplayable, field's unplayable?
The ref did, the ref was there, he didn't call the game because the other team didn't show up.
No, but one way they get fined, right? The game scheduled, the game went on, they didn't show up.
Did he
The
fill out
field's
a game
open.
report?
Yeah, he did.
The other team no show?
That's the way he put it, no show.
And I haven't gone through all that stuff.
Yeah, you're not gonna get it yet.
It's, Sherry and I were going crazy just trying to
But those fields
notify
weren't
people.
We're not close.
Yeah. So I'm saying, that's a blatant no-show.
And that story was,
There you go.
like, it's 30 minutes before 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I need your permission to leave because the coach told me he's not coming. And I said, can I get my permission?
No, because
I
we,
said, you can stay till 4, and if they don't come, then they'll, it'll get reviewed, but most likely.
The ref will call for.
Write up a game report.
But he was trying to leave early,
No,
and I said, I'm not gonna do that.
and we hadn't heard from Wesley Chapel.
Yeah, I said I wasn't aware.
Was the team ever there?
No.
It was that, they play early,
No, but if the Wesley Chapel team you were supposed to play, were they ever there?
they play early in the morning.
Oh, did they play them?
It was the rain that came in, it was that noon
Afternoon.
band that came through that caused the problem. It was crazy, and we were,
Them know because he did not show. They played in the morning.
Well, there's more to that, because then the FC Tampa coach said, he goes, I know they just don't want to play. It doesn't have to do with the weather. They're saying it's because of the weather. And I said,
That ain't, yeah, right.
driving, all I can tell you
Double
is,
fine.
put your field closed, you better take your minutes away.
They can have the right to close the fields, that's the problem.
No, because the field was up.
All right.
If they in the morning. Well, if they would have closed the field, they would have followed the proper procedure.
we were,
Right, but again, we're back to who has the right up there to close the fields. We're right back to that problem. It rains in between the morning game, and it rains like cats and dogs before you guys play. I look at the field and say, we came, and this is ridiculous, and go home.
No, because at that point, if they haven't notified anyone, the referee has to call the game.
yeah.
Right, but I'm the coach, and I say to who, now the question becomes, Mike, who now has the authority to close that field? If that coach doesn't, then they forfeit it.
I think it's like 2 hours before the game, we have to wait till the ref comes in, the ref says, it's unplayable. That's it.
Yeah. Well, no, you can close the if you close the, I don't care when it is. We refs say, the field's playing. I said, no one's playing on these fields today. I'm going to tell you that right now, because we can't have them torn up. I don't care if the ref thinks it's playable. This complex closed.
Yeah, but you're changing the scenario. You're making a new scenario. This is
It's not. What I'm saying is that there's somebody at a field that has the right to close that field down. They didn't get in touch with anybody.
Yeah, but
There was a
the
chap.
point is that nobody chose to get in contact.
Right, but they're gonna argue again, but the coach didn't have the right, that's what I'm trying to get at, Mike, is to say, if the coach didn't have the right by himself to close those fields, then it was to the ref, and it's a forfeit, right?
Correct.
Unless whoever it was, now there was city, isn't there some kind of weird?
There is no unless.
No, but there's some ownership thing up there. Who runs that? The city, right? Yeah, but it's an authority, right?
The Wesley Chapel, Athletics.
Yeah. So,
But
they didn't come and say, close the field to the, you know, to the.
He was there. They filled out a game report.
Yeah, no, I'm saying you said to the coach, this is not playable, go home.
Well, then.
The coach doesn't know, well, I'll go home.
Yeah, well, then he's got to contact someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
And I'm pulling up,
that's just what we're talking about.
Yeah, but
But coach-
Well, he did. So he gets stuck.
Well, but, yeah, the DOD should be involved in that, no doubt. But that's the problem we have with a lot of these, is that the guys who the authority is, like in Wesley Chapel, it's not the city, it's an association. That can show up at any time from the association and say, no playing these fields right now, they're too wet, and we'll get them ruined. But no, even USA exists.
Yeah, but I mean, then it still goes down to the thing that coach.
Somebody, well,
So you
yeah.
can get hold of Olsen and Olsen has to get
Yeah,
hold of
yeah.
him.
Well, the coach never got a hold of me,
Coaches
right?
don't know.
That's the point, that's what's happening to us. The coach doesn't know who closes, he just told it, he says, the guy told me I can't play.
Is that our fault?
No.
It's
So,
our fault. His fault.
I can't even find, I can't even find a workshop field closage.
charge now the $350 because that
Yes.
field was open, unless we find out differently, correct?
No, charge $350. It's the club.
Well,
If they haven't trained their coaches, or they don't communicate, or they don't, or the coaches don't know.
No call, no show.
Yeah, no call, no show. It's
Hammer
our time,
under
man.
12 team, I just got a hold of this team and I made him the coach. It's the third of the season. You're in a hurry at Auburndale and say, these aren't gonna play, I can play today, Jack.
Yeah, but he's a good
Jack
guy. He's
doesn't
gonna
know.
tell him to call someone.
Jack says, okay,
Or
I'll
I'm
go
gonna do
home.
it myself as being a club administrator.
All right, there you go.
But
Sometimes an FYMA could
these young
come
coaches
down on
don't
you.
know, so they
FYMA
figure
down on
you
you.
know.
Make him learn.
Yeah. Well, but that's been our problem. It's not a matter of who's right or what. We're not getting that communication because who's ever closing the field needs to be to be
Let's,
responsible. To say, somebody get in touch with USA, I just closed these fields.
Make him responsible.
Yeah.
without the suffering the consequences.
Every
Nobody
president knows when the fields are closed. So
They should, they should,
responsibility
yeah.
to make sure.
You're trying to make,
And in that situation, the fight played in the morning.
Yeah.
If the rain through, they go up, the referee showed up. You know, and even if the coach and team wasn't sure what the condition of the fields, they should have showed up.
Yes, they should have.
Ignoring it.
That's what makes me question if somebody didn't tell them to go, well, I mean, they didn't want to play is what you're.
we're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but they made no effort on
Whose
behalf.
team is it, Gil's team?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know that I could do the research. I will have
You can't.
But for us, that has been the problem. These field things, we got
I'm not going into
counties.
things.
You guys don't know what a county city, right? So the city could come down at any point and decide that, man, fields are too wet, we're gonna ruin our fields, you can't play on a day.
No,
And say, okay,
we don't.
but sometimes you left, your son broke his leg and you're going out and well, we just closed the fields. And that's the things, that doesn't happen. We don't have to, we just don't have communication between the people that close the fields and the people that get in touch with us. Somehow we gotta close that gap to make everybody know, you gotta get to us. Somebody's gotta get to us.
I think that information on that field closure,
Yeah, that'll help.
you know what I mean?
Because I know myself we'd be closing fields and not know what to do.
Everybody has somebody at the club that can notify it,
Yes, yeah.
right?
And hopefully they're the authority that can close the field the same. But a lot of times, Mike, you're not there. Do you leave somebody in charge?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the situation that they know that if they're gonna, if the field people that they have to get hold of the league, they have to be able to track that.
But say you, Coco? I mean, I know myself sometimes. I'd be away from the fields and I'd be guys call me saying it's not playable, Scott or somebody, I know.
I mean, there's 3 or 4 of us in Arbor.
But I mean, it's,
That's where we gotta get to. Every club knows that, hey, man, those fields, it's a big deal.
You talked a lot about communication before, and I think that by forcing those fees, it force your clubs to communicate
What's that,
as well, which is a good.
Never collected a fine. First time, 2 years ago was the first time, I believe, that were collected a fine.
yeah, 'cause-
Everyone was like, as the reason why is that we should start at least getting people used to this thing. But now we have a,
Information for on their website, you know what I mean, like,
yeah, no, like, there's no reason why, but we still get it, you know, it's,
and some people can say, you can just, they'll say that, no, they're the rules.
like being a parent. I mean, you keep saying things for 10 years, so 10 years will have the whole thing smooth, but it's not to bring these things up because, like I said, the forfeit thing is 1%. Right now, thing yesterday is straighten out the things that are a pain in the ass, but in general, we've done pretty well communicating. It's got soccer and the extra clerical effort that we put into this has really helped keep games flowing. Like I said, 3,500 games, it's hard to not have problems. You know.
Problems are just situations.
yeah, situation.
Wow, thank you, Brian Tracy.
I think y'all are getting on semantics, so we'll get on semantics. Situation.
Situation, maybe.
Not a reschedule situation, but a situation.
Yeah, well, these schedules are, and we've got.
But are we straightened on that? Do we know the?
Well, I need to know what you want me to propose, so,
Well, 100, we said 100, one time, right?
One time.
okay, if it's
1 days or better, $100.
Well, 21 days is nothing,
No,
so,
21 days or better is no fine.
But 21 days, inside 21 days is.
Within a forfeit,
UA is $100 first
within,
time.
as long as it's more than 48 hours in advance.
We're between 48 hours and 21 days.
and
Yeah.
21 days.
$100.
Yeah.
48 hours,
You're allowed to forfeit 21 days in advance with no fee?
yeah.
No, 21 days, you can reschedule if the other guys will agree to it.
But if it's more than 21 days, we're saying no fee, and that kind of.
They'll reschedule it. Or they'll
Forfeit's a forfeit,
I know, but no,
that's not a reschedule.
okay.
That's,
No, wait a minute, even 21 days, why wouldn't we find somebody for?
no, we don't. If it's more than 21 days and they go, I forfeit, I wanted.
They're gonna forfeit something 21 days.
We don't want to open up the can of worms where they can forfeit for like a week.
Well, that's what happens when teams drop out.
Yeah.
Dropping out's a different thing.
That's what we do. I mean, if a team drops out.
There's got to be a penalty for people that.
Agreed, 21 days is still no good. You forfeit, it's $100 fine.
Some days, I don't know, whatever.
21 days on the ref, that's because we're using 21
Well,
days.
it's not
If
the
you start
ref,
having.
now we're punishing them for forfeit.
You're probably not going to forfeit 21 days out.
Drop out, and drop out once the season.
Well, dropping out's a whole nother issue for us.
Exactly.
We got a bunch of games we have a bunch of problems.
But if you've got a team that, I'm saying with the 21 days, you've got a team that knows they can't reschedule, and so they just want to forfeit,
I think they still pay the $100.
Absolutely.
still want even.
Absolutely.
One time, yeah, that's their one.
Okay,
Yeah, that should be a penalty.
Scheduling and forfeiting are two different things.
If you're not going to open for a match, there's
if
a penalty.
forfeit occurs,
So 48 hours notice or more, then it's $100 one time. After that, it's the $350.
Yeah, 48 hours in advance.
all right, I'll have to rewrite this paragraph. 48 hours, and that's it.
Because you still don't want to encourage the,
But we've got the 2 teams, or 3 teams, well, anyway. So it's $100
well, this is for next year anyway. These
Yeah.
are proposed amendments for
for next year that'll be voted on at the AGM. I just want to have the wording done so we don't have to spend a lot of time going over. And we still have here that teams with outstanding debts are ineligible to play. That's a current rule. We've still got teams that we fined and they're still playing. So,
We'll read, I don't know
Well, I
what.
go with the PayPal.
Well, leave it in there. We have to revisit on how we enforce it.
yeah, very difficult to enforce that.
Well, it penalizes the other club too. It penalizes the club that's playing them.
Yeah, because
That's true. I think you let them play because you don't want to penalize the other thing. You just put the club within bad standing,
you still have them advance.
Yeah.
the whole club.
To
within a certain amount.
Can do that.
But then if it's not paid in 30 days or by the end of the season, then it goes,
I want to go play, and I try to, get record in, and like,
The game has scheduled.
but if I can't make it,
They save the forfeit fine.
I have to,
Absolutely.
not,
Whoever.
The one that wants to reschedule.
Who's ever won, they
who
schedule.
can't show up?
Doesn't matter. Who's ever not gonna show. Yeah. We just asked Gerald to say, at least you've told us you're not coming, so you haven't made the other team show up.
Mhm.
And perhaps the referees, if we can get to them.
You know what's complicating in this is a lot of clubs has coaches that are coaches.
Yeah, 3 games.
Mhm.
So they are saying, well, you could, my schedule, because I can't do that, so well, I do it after my schedule. So,
And they'll get one game, if we're 100, if they continue to do that, then at 350 a shot.
but, you know, they give us the power to the team that's been asked to reschedule.
Yeah. If team that,
I don't want to reschedule that.
yeah.
The problem is the coaches, you know, they got 3 or 4 teams. They ought to have either an assistant coach or a manager, somebody who can show
The
up.
assistant coach can't show, that's what happened.
We make that point,
Yeah.
no, we made that point, and they also know, yes, because, you know, I do not reschedule any games based on the availability of the coach, because that's how we have an assistant coach.
I'll have the coaches pass and sign it. If you just sit on the bench and be quiet, the kids will do fine.
Well, you just gotta enforce that, that's all, that's
Whose coach has got to be there?
I've seen, even in the.
Coach,
my
that's-
coach's schedule, and I think sometimes when I go over, and all of a sudden, I get something from Sharon, my coach was,
Well, that would be at the first hour we were talking about it, Gerald.
and I don't do any more of this without my permission. It just went.
Yeah. But by the first hour of discussion, who's wrong, who's right, and I think we got fairly well clocked now that, you know, we will, if you can't make a decision, we will.
When US is scheduled, it's gonna have to be respected.
Yeah, yes. And I think the $100 forfeit fine stays in place for people that are not ahead, it's $100 fine.
They give
The time is 350. You know, obviously, you're not creating habits out of the 100. You know, max season, if something happens, all right, it does, things do happen.
And I do think that the members, the club members.
We'll have to vote on that anyway, Mike, so the members are still gonna have.
Need to be educated that they don't have to reschedule. If it's not.
That's correct.
That's it, they don't have to be.
It's their right not to after the original schedule is set.
Mhm.
After the schedules are
Locked,
set.
yeah.
Those schedules are locked, all the rules that apply.
you can play their season in 2, what? You know,
Everybody to agree? Yeah,
I don't know if they all, yeah.
You mentioned about, your OSB to league.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, because we haven't done anything about him.
So
We
you
have-
have a team who has not paid.
Yeah.
And if you're paying.
Yep. Well, that was the point we're just making, though. What we do if we do that, Coco, we're now punting every team that they're gonna play against.
We'll get it
At the
in.
end of the season, we'll take care of them.
And maybe before they register for Region C or state stuff, you make them pay their fees.
So X-Y.
They've already,
We can't affect that yet.
can't affect that.
Teams can register for the next season if it's.
Yeah, and it
It
may
has
not be
to
the
be the
same
club.
team. A team like that is likely to be gone anyway, but probably not well organized.
They go to the club.
Goes to the club, that's
Yeah,
the thing that,
club's gonna
you
pay.
say, hey, man, you're not in good standing, you got 12 teams here, you wanna play?
Okay.
Well, that's the way for the clubs to monitor their coaches.
Yep,
and their
yep.
teams.
That's what
And
it
if
sure
they're
is.
too bad, we might make them put up a bond before they even,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
as well.
I mean, we're just dwelling on the enforcement end of this, but it's,
Yeah, this is a minor. It really.
I mean, right now you have $4,000 outstanding in fines. $4,000.
You know, they come
It's been notified, notified, and notified.
General state of it, and I go second to that. The league is, the league has to be respected. The league has to consider the attitude and the behavior of the members.
But at the end of the season, I think we look at the fines and say, you know, you gotta be up to date on your fines.
$4,000, how many clubs are involved in that? That's money.
See, 1, 2,
Not a
4, 5,
100, not 350 a
6,
shot.
7, 8, 10.
Clubs,
And they not even know that
Oh, they do, because this went to the club. This went to the agent of record of the club. I'm the one that put the email address in there, and it's been routine.
I think I'm the agent of record for our,
Have you
paying a fine.
Have you noted to them, Linda, that, failure to pay the fine would have consequences going into next?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, I do that now, yeah.
Just tell them they can't do it. Set it up.
Exactly.
That'll solve that.
Disrespecting the other teams and disrespecting the league.
I mean, the ones I've actually invoiced, and some of them have received like 4 invoices for the event. I mean, it's multiple. I mean,
I need to have them sign it, but if they don't pay, we're gonna come steal all their soccer balls.
yeah.
We're gonna be possessive like the IRS.
But I'm just saying, these are, yeah.
Well, they didn't pay their fees for the teams, we wouldn't affiliate them, they wouldn't play. This is the same thing.
Yeah.
Everything's gotta be paid up before we schedule them.
Player pay for a red card? No, for the club now.
No charge for red cards.
Now, we made a point this year to go over red cards again, and we're the ones that make up the 1 game, 2 game, 4
So
game
that's
things.
all.
That's why I say they keep thinking we're, you know, even HCU who are they? TU, they are,
I started it.
and those people had a question about the calling me to say, you know, I got nothing to do with it. I don't know, man, it's FYI.
Guidelines.
Yeah, they have guidelines.
I had to check with Linda to make sure I knew that, but I mean, it wasn't, you know, I realized, you know, what am I doing? We're not even in this, you know?
Yeah, we don't have much to say. I mean, it's all, let me see if I can find it here.
Covered forfeits?
Yeah, we're good on forfeits.
Wait, yeah, what I'll do is I'll take this, because I got to redo it, and I'll send it out to
Yeah, but you understand the sense of it then?
Yeah, I wrote notes. Hopefully I'll get to put
Is
it.
there anything else we haven't covered that you wanted to cover, Linda?
That was it. I think I got a feeling for what everybody
Another meeting.
wants.
Thank you.
Well, what else? I mean, this was you know, we were talking about this before. We had 35 people last year or something.
You know, again, this is the DOC meeting that the league called for, to go through all that stuff.
Yeah.
We know we're gonna get a lot of crap.
Maybe not though, Mike. I think, yeah, but I think a lot of this was, look, those guys, we all know, some of those guys, it's a business thing, the reason they're doing that. It's got nothing to do with the rules or anything else. They've got a business, and what we're doing doesn't meet their business plan. And they're gonna complain about our rules and regs, but really, it's got nothing to do with us. It really doesn't. Some of these clubs would rather not be in a league, but they don't know anything else to do. And we stand that. So if we listen to them, we're fools, because they don't have any skin in the game in this thing. They like to not be in it. So if we, you know, we're idiots for this wrong.
That's our counter comment.
Yeah.
Gave you the forum.
But
You weren't here.
So don't play.
But I think too, Mike, that because of the extra, I think the Scott Soccer and the extra clerical budget has solved a lot of the real nasty issues that we used to run into. Have gotten a lot smoother.
You're gonna come down to that, those DOCs that say, well, I want, you know, my team should be there.
Well, the divisional schedule, I mean, some of the stuff that we got kind of,
The 13s work out. I mean, they're just talking about something that at the meeting that we didn't get to at the meeting last year in this thing. Is the switch over you made in 13s.
that seems to
Seemed like
work
it was
out.
good.
That'll work out good.
Oh, you mean,
It's not something we want to be doing every year because of that, but
Yeah, but you know what I did? But what happened was, we were not waiting for the clubs to tell us when the games were. I scheduled the games on their fields. And because that was always the issue with the reshuffle, is that
But we handle it.
we ask them and say, you've got a game, what, you know, and we never hear back. We'd never hear back. So I'm thinking I'm going to do when we release the schedule in the fall, the first time, instead of waiting for the clubs to schedule the games, because there's, out of the 50 clubs, at least 10 of them are going to do it.
I agree with you.
I'm just going to take their fields that they've got in Got Soccer, schedule the games, and if they want to move them, they can move them. Because you have to put the games on a field in order to move them. And we've got all these clubs that are saying, well, I'm waiting to hear when the coach wants it. I'm screaming at them through my computer. For the games. Because then the coaches can see at least what you're thinking.
So you had a learning experience doing the research.
Well,
Yeah.
when in doubt, do it.
Yeah,
The reshuffle was, for the under 13s was, they would like to get into the top division to play for the championship.
Mhm.
And then the fact that the way that the winner of that, the top division was going to get their region cup or state cup fees real.
For man.
The game was a cup fight.
This, the NYSA for the 13s is using the league standings as seeding. So Ron Batchelor called me several days ago, just to confirm what this meant, you know, because he didn't know. So, yeah, so I mean, yeah, what's group 1 and group 2? I go, well, that's 2 and 3, 4, 5, and 6. But it worked because I scheduled them. I think.
Yeah, because we talked to the league director,
But
And
that's
it
the
worked.
type of thing, I mean, I think that's why we don't have a room, I know part of it's apathy, but the other part is that we haven't had horrible things, we've had some horrible things happen this year, but not because we've such, you know, lots of clerical end. I mean, it's better than it's ever been, and that eliminates a lot of the problems, it really does. Communication.
And this is, you know, your leadership. I think that everyone this year knows that they in debate. This, you know, they're going to run it. These are the rules, the referees, these are the conditions for the referees.
Yeah, but they're reasonable too, Mike. And I think the other thing we've got here is everyone realizes that we're trying, and we really are trying to be as open and reasonable as possible without being, you know, it's kind of like, you know, always, you know, I'm too easy, you know, I'm the nice guy, you know, come on, Paul. Yeah. I guess you gotta have both, right? You gotta have both.
You had something, Coco. Just the right time to push up the referees. Sir,
But I'll
I
tell you,
think we need to.
it's something, I know, everybody winces, but I'll tell you, we are in a bidding war for referees, no doubt about it. And I say we'll do it this year, but when some of our clubs are charging kids $1,400 and $1,500, and we're talking about the ref fees costing nothing relatively, if start stepping up and becoming the most expensive. Now, I understand the referees get no better money. I'll argue that. However, we're going to be we're in a bidding war now. We have a lot of slots to fill, which gives us some power. But I'll tell you,
where are we now compared to other leagues?
30, I don't know, 50, 25.
yeah, but we're a little bit behind. We're a little bit behind. CDL, I think we're a little bit light.
No, it was like,
I think go down and we're lower on some of the smaller.
Actually, they were 50, that was just, down there, 28, 28. Where'd they come up with that? 28, 20.
Got to beat our 25s.
Yeah, so,
But
30.
what I'd like to suggest is to help our signers and to help encourage referees, if we do something an end of the year type thing, we'll get all the assigners to show up, with all their referees to show up, and put on a little, just a small get-together somewhere, and it'd be 2, north and south, the assigners and their ARs and it's just your referees and show up, maybe. And then kind of go over what we've done this year. We appreciate all their help and just kind of an appreciation thing.
Just more meetings, trying to fit another meeting in, I mean, is monumental.
Yeah, but
Good, I'd like to do it, but I'm saying, beware, because I'll tell you, man, getting people out on another, I mean, today.
I know it'd be tough for you to show up for another referee meeting that all.
I don't wanna get, look, if I showed up.
All those referee meetings he came to last
If I showed up at a referee meeting, someone would.
How many did he show up
Yeah, I know, just one more.
That is what a great, administrator does, is administrate. I don't need any more meetings, believe me when I tell you, man, if I never went to another one of those.
I wouldn't count on you, and I wouldn't.
That's the faith I have in you, that's the utter faith I have in our team.
I'm just asking the.
You should put something together like
If you can, if you wanna do it, I'm 100% in favor of.
That's all I want.
Of funding it.
You do it about,
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just a little, we're not gonna, maybe some a little bit more than just the pizza, but, Coke and get together and,
Anything we can do for the rest, any money we can spend on them is good. Yeah, but I was gonna say, it does not substitute for paying us.
Here's the deal, the best signers have relationships with the referees. And that's more of what this is about, having a get-together. I mean, these assigners don't know them. These assigners don't know the young up and coming. That's why I'm back out on the field. You don't know how many young referees I met that are my ARs. And, hey, who's working with you? Man, you're pretty sharp over there. You're doing a good job. And I get to know them. I get names, and I have a bunch of names this year I put on my list, keeping to help up the line.
Well, if anybody out there in.
And that's what Eddie Pena does, that's what, all the Michael Mecklenburg does, those two, they go out, they go to a tournament, they're working a tournament, and they see a guy, then they go talk to him, get names and all that. And down, and who are you, and what name now, what you're at, man, I'd like to invite you to my tournament that I sign. That's what those guys. It is a business for them. Some of them that is their.
Eddie Pena, that's
That's his business.
It's his business.
That's his income. Any of his abilities, but his abilities to go out and get people. They won't let him referee at Disney because he's running around, writing down everybody's names and emails, and then invites them to this. That's what. We got this on.
Is anything else? Anything else we forgot? Well, we're gonna close the meeting then. Why don't we get started?